What if your life depended on every fight? What if the price of victory was freedom and the cost of defeat, death? In ancient Rome, this was reality for the gladiators, men and sometimes women who fought for their survival in front of tens of thousands. But how did these bloody spectacles begin? What drove the emperors to use gladiator games as political weapons? And what kind of life did these warriors truly live? Today, we're stepping inside the Roman Gladiator Arena, exploring the history, the glory, and the grim fate of Rome's most brutal entertainment. Would you have what it takes to survive? The gladiator games didn't start as grand public spectacles. They began as solemn rituals, part of Etruscan funeral rites where combat honored the dead. But Rome, being the mighty empire it was, took this small tradition and expanded it into something much larger, much bloodier. By the 3rd century BC, these once private rites had become public spectacles. The games evolved into events that celebrated military victories, honored the gods, and distracted the people from the political chaos of the day. But how did it get to this? How did Rome turn these humble duels into massive games featuring hundreds of gladiators? The construction of the Colosseum was a turning point. Completed in 80 AD, this monumental arena could hold over 50,000 spectators and became the heart of Roman entertainment. The emperors quickly realized the power of the games. Julius Caesar was one of the first to use them as a political tool, staging grand spectacles to win favor with the Roman people. Caesar's ambition set the tone, and soon emperors like Augustus took things even further. Under Augustus, the games became regular events. They weren't just entertainment, they were a way to showcase the emperor's wealth and power. For some emperors, though, like Caligula and Commodus, the games became personal playgrounds. Commodus, infamous for his eccentricity, wasn't content to merely watch the gladiator games from the safety of the stands. He craved the attention and glory that came with being a gladiator. But of course, as emperor, he couldn't risk his life in real combat. So Commodus took the role of a performer in the arena. He saw himself as a warrior god, sometimes even dressing as Hercules, wielding a lion's skin and a club. Unlike real gladiators, his fights were carefully choreographed, with his opponents having no chance of survival or victory. One infamous example occurred when Commodus entered the arena and fought against injured or shackled opponents, guaranteeing an easy win. In one such instance, he killed a group of amputee gladiators who were forced to fight him, making a mockery of what was supposed to be a display of skill and bravery. To make matters worse, Commodus often charged the Roman state an enormous fee for each of his appearances, further bankrupting the empire. Though he saw himself as a champion, the Roman people were not so easily fooled. His victories were far from heroic, more theatrical than anything else, and designed purely to satisfy his ego. But what about the gladiators themselves? Who were these men forced to fight for their lives? Most were slaves, captured in war, or condemned criminals. But there were others, free men known as auctorati, who chose the gladiator life, not out of desperation, but by choice. Why? Fame, glory, or money. These men volunteered to step into the arena, signing contracts that bound them to fight in exchange for lucrative rewards. Can you imagine making such a choice, volunteering to fight, to risk your life when you didn't have to? One such man was Marcus Attilius, a freeborn Roman who volunteered to become a gladiator. While most auctorati were motivated by crippling debt or poverty, some, like Attilius, were driven by the promise of fame. His story is particularly striking because, despite his lack of experience, he fought and defeated veterans of the arena, including the seasoned gladiator Hilarus, who had been the prized fighter of Emperor Nero. Attilius's first victory was shocking. Imagine it, an amateur defeating an emperor's favored champion. This win launched him into immediate stardom. He continued to fight, becoming one of the most successful gladiators of his time. His reputation grew, not only as a skilled fighter, but also as a man who had chosen to live a life most Romans would never dare to imagine. The success of auctorati like Marcus Attilius shows that gladiatorial combat wasn't just a world of slaves and prisoners. For some, it was a path to fame, fortune, and even adoration. Attilius fought for more than survival. He fought for glory, and he won it. But would you risk your life for such a prize? Training in the Rudis was brutal. Gladiators lived under the strict control of their trainers, called lanistae, and fought in various styles. You had the heavily armed Mumio, the agile Retiarius with his trident and net, and many others. Their training was intense, and their only goal, survival in the arena. Imagine the roar of 50,000 spectators as you step into the Colosseum. The games were ruthless. Gladiators fought in battles designed to thrill and entertain. But these weren't mindless brawls. Each combat had rules, and every move was part of a carefully crafted strategy. Winning wasn't just about strength. It was about skill, precision, and perhaps a little luck. Victory wasn't guaranteed. A lost battle could mean death, either by the blade of your opponent or by the signal of the crowd or emperor. Thumbs up or down could decide whether you lived to fight another day or face the brutal end of a sword. For most, losing in the arena meant a swift and brutal end. A defeated gladiator might be executed on the spot or be dragged away by a special attendant. The Karen, symbolically banishing their soul from the world. But for the rare few who survived enough battles, there was hope, freedom. Gladiators who impressed the crowds and won enough victories might receive a Rudis, a wooden sword that symbolized their release from the blood-soaked sands of the Colosseum. To be given this sword was to be given a new life, a life free from the arena's violence and terror. With this sword, a gladiator could walk away, a free man. But freedom wasn't all they could achieve. Some became wealthy celebrities in Roman society, admired for their courage and skill in the arena. One such gladiator was the legendary Flamma. Flamma, whose name means the flame, was a gladiator of Syrian origin. He fought as a secutor, a heavily armed gladiator. Over his career, Flamma fought in 34 recorded matches, an impressive number given how deadly the games were. He won most of his battles and became incredibly popular with the Roman crowds. His skill, bravery, and endurance earned him the offer of freedom not once, but 4 times. Yet despite receiving the Rudis, Flamma refused freedom multiple times, continuing to fight in the arena. He lived for the glory, the fame, and the adoration of the Roman people. Eventually, after his long career, Flamma finally accepted his freedom and left the life of a gladiator behind. But he didn't just fade into obscurity. He became a celebrated figure in Roman society, a man who had defied the odds and survived the deadly Colosseum. Gladiators like Flamma, who achieved both freedom and fame, were celebrated much like modern-day sports stars. He had fans, wealth, and prestige in a society that, for the most part, looked down on those who weren't born into high status. Can you imagine gaining that level of fame after fighting for your life in the sands of the Colosseum? If you are liking this video and would like to know more about the rich history and traditions of ancient Rome, hit that like and subscribe button, or share your comments below on how you feel about the Roman gladiatorial games. Let's continue. But why did these games become so central to Roman life? For the people, it was more than just sport. The games offered an escape, a way to forget their struggles for a few hours and lose themselves in the spectacle of violence and victory. And the games weren't just for show, they were an economic engine. From vendors to builders, the games created jobs. And let's not forget the gamblers, who bet on everything from the outcome of a fight to how long it would last. As Rome evolved, so did its attitudes. With the rise of Christianity, public opinion began to turn against the violent spectacles. The games, once so popular, started to lose their appeal. In 404 AD, Emperor Honorius officially banned gladiatorial combat, marking the end of nearly 700 years of blood and sand. The mighty Colosseum, once filled with the cheers of the masses, would fall silent. Now, let's dive into some fun facts. Did you know there were female gladiators? Though rare, gladiatrices fought fiercely in the arena, challenging the stereotype of gladiators as exclusively male warriors. Or how about the fact that it wasn't just people fighting in the Colosseum? Exotic animals like lions, tigers, and even elephants were brought in from distant lands, creating a spectacle unlike anything the world had seen. And though the games are long gone, their influence still echoes in modern sports. From the structure of stadiums to the intensity of competition, our world still loves the thrill of a fierce contest, much like the crowds of ancient Rome. So, could you have survived inside the Roman Gladiator Arena? The games were brutal, but they shaped an empire and left a legacy that still fascinates us today. The gladiators fought for more than just victory. They fought for survival, for honor, and sometimes for freedom. If you liked this video, then perhaps you would also like this video, where we talk about the roles that made the Roman Empire and its politics.